You know, we all see the headlines about big environmental crises, but today we're going to pull back the curtain and look at the actual political arenas where the planet's future is being decided. This is the world of environmental foreign policy.
It sounds like a pretty simple question, doesn't it? But the answer is anything but. Is it governments? Is it the UN? Activist groups? The truth is, it's a tangled web, and that complexity is exactly what we're going to unravel today.
Okay, so to even start figuring out who's in charge, we need to get our heads around this idea of environmental foreign policy. This is really where the puzzle begins.
So at its core, it's basically about what one country does to impact the environment outside its own backyard. Now, for a long time, this was just about countries making deals with other countries. Simple enough. But the whole game has changed.
And that change has led to this massive shift in how we even think about power. We've moved from a world of government, the classic top-down model, to a world of governance. And governance is this huge, messy web of states, big corporations, nonprofits, even local communities, all trying to coordinate. Let's take a look at how these two different worlds really operate.
So first, let's put on the traditional glasses, the ones that see nations, and only nations, in the driver's seat.
In this classic view, it's all about national interest, right? Countries are like players on a global chessboard, and they're using diplomacy and treaties as their moves to protect their own turf and shape the environmental rules of the game.
And this state-centric playbook, it really has 4 different levels. A country can just go it alone, act unilaterally, like when Russia banned fur seal hunting way back in 1893. Or they can team up with one other country that's bilateral, like Botswana and South Africa did to create a joint park. They can also work with their neighbors on a regional problem, like fighting acid rain in Europe. And then, for the really big stuff, the global stuff, they go multilateral, which is how you get nearly 200 countries showing up for something like the Rio Earth Summit.
But here's the thing, that state-centric view, it's only half the story. The reality today is so much more crowded, so much more complicated. Welcome to the world of shared governance.
In this much more modern picture, authority isn't just held by governments anymore, it's shared. A diplomat from a foreign ministry is now just one player among many, caught in this huge web that stretches from, say, a local fishing village, all the way up to a big global institution.
And to see how this actually works, just look at how they manage the fisheries in the Baltic Sea. There's no single boss. You've got the European Commission proposing rules, then the Council of Ministers has to approve the quotas, then the individual countries have to actually implement them, and all the while, the local fishers on the ground are providing feedback. It's this whole chain of command, flowing up and down.
You know, this new reality, it kicks off a huge debate. What's actually better? Should we have one big, single authority, what we'd call monocentric, making all the rules, like a giant global climate treaty? Or is a polycentric approach better, where you have tons of smaller, independent groups, like networks of cities, all tackling the problem from their own angle? There is no easy answer to that.
Okay, so we've got these 2 different pictures of reality. The old world where states are in charge, and this new world of shared governance. The really crucial question is, what happens when these 2 worlds overlap and crash into each other? Because that's where the real politics kick in.
The first major flashpoint is a fight over what the problem even is. Whose problem are we trying to solve?
This is called rescaling, and believe me, it is a powerful political weapon. Think about it. If you frame the Amazon rainforest as a local resource, you get to keep control. But if you call it the global lungs, you're inviting international pressure and maybe funding, so actors are constantly trying to resize the issue to fit their own agenda.
The second challenge, well, it's a classic case of having too many cooks in the kitchen, or maybe in this case, too many different rule books.
I mean, in this crowded landscape, where do you even take an environmental dispute? Do you go to a dedicated environmental body? Or what about the World Trade Organization? And choosing your venue is a huge strategic decision, because an economic body might put trade way above ecology. This competition between institutions creates a ton of uncertainty.
And then you've got challenge number 3, a whole new, powerful group of watchdogs who don't really care about borders.
Nowadays, activist groups and NGOs are masters of playing the scale game. They can take a totally local protest, like the fight over a pulp mill on the Uruguay River, and they can rocket it all the way up to an international court. This creates what some experts have called a civilizing force of hypocrisy. It puts this incredible public pressure on governments to actually walk the walk, not just talk the talk.
And all of this brings us to our 4th and maybe the most critical challenge. For all the promise of this new, complex system,
does it come at the expense of democracy?
And this is a serious concern. When decisions get made in these super complex, overlapping networks, they're often happening miles away from public view, and that weakens democratic control. Plus, powerful countries with big teams of lawyers and experts, they can navigate this maze way better than developing nations can. The big risk here is that we end up with less transparency and a system that just helps the powerful get more powerful.
So, where does all this leave us? Well, it leaves us in a world that's defined by this constant tug-of-war between power, politics, and the future of our planet.
But here's the crucial takeaway. This new, messy system isn't automatically good or bad. The real promise lies in our ability to work within it, to figure out how to turn all this complexity into a real opportunity for more creative, more inclusive, and hopefully more effective solutions.
Which leaves us with one final big question to think about. As we face these huge global problems that no single country can solve alone, is this new model of shared power our only real path forward? Or have we just created a new, more complicated battleground for the same old power struggles? The answer to that is going to define our collective future.